Welcome to the wonderfully weird world of the Tinfoil Hat Fan Club, where we talk about all the batshit crazy stuff that goes on in the world, and there is loads. So, today I would like to continue with the theory that aliens have been knocking around for thousands of years, and if you add all the evidence together, paintings, stories, records, it's getting harder to deny, really. So, today's edition, I would like to talk about some artifacts that the Mexican government has released, okay? And they've been holding on to them for over 80 years. So, stay tuned and I'll tell you all about it. Okay, thanks for sticking around. Now, this all starts in March the 25th, 2013. The Mexican government officials came out and publicly said that they held evidence that ancient Maya civilizations had dealings with aliens and UFOs, and it all boils down to the artifacts that they kept hidden away. The artifacts that I'm going to go and show you have been kept secret and left on dusty shelves down long corridors for over 80 years, like I said. Now, I will give you a couple of examples and I'm going to stick some behind me, okay? Now, this picture behind me clearly shows to me a UFO. It shows a UFO at the top of the carving, there you go, and what appears to be a beam of light emanating from the craft, as you can see. Also, there's another UFO to the left. Now, where did they get the reference to carve such a shape unless they actually had seen them? So, with this picture in mind, do the remaining artifacts, like I see behind me, do they show typical grey aliens and flying saucers? What do you think? To me, there's no doubt. Now, it's not just UFOs they carved or used as an art subject. Look at the artifact there, right? It had eyes like a typical grey. Where did they get that image from? You know, think about that. Where did they get that image from unless they'd actually seen them? So, as far as I can ascertain, the typical grey alien image didn't surface until 1947 with the Roswell crash. And then the Hills abduction story kind of cemented it. Now, Barney and Betty Hill were an American couple who claimed that they were abducted by extraterrestrials in a rural portion of the state of New Hampshire from September 19 to 20, 1961. And although their explanation of the aliens aren't exactly the same, they were grey and they did have dark eyes. Another artefact I would like to highlight is in the picture behind. There you go. You would have to agree it does look like a UFO. It even has, if you can see them, aliens poking through the window. It does look like your typical everyday UFO. Now remember, the image of your typical UFO wasn't around then. They didn't have papers, they didn't have telly, they didn't have anything to sort of like encourage you to picture a UFO in your mind. But they got one there, all right? And as I said before, the UFO culture that we love didn't appear until the 40s, all right? So where did they get that from unless they'd seen it? Now, according to the artifacts finder, Klaus Donner, and I will stick him there for you, the long-lost artifacts were found in a cave just north of Mexico City. But the experts believe they originally came from the ancient Maya site of Calakmul. This grand city dates back to 600 AD and has the tallest pyramid in the Yucatan Peninsula. And I will stick it there for you, all right? Have a little look. Now, that is an amazing piece of architect, isn't it? All right. But we don't start seeing early evidence of the Maya until 1500 BC. The greatest thing about the Maya civilization is the writing system. No one in the New World has any sort of writing system. And of course, also the complex calendar system is an achievement that I feel we shouldn't underestimate. I mean, just look at that. I mean, man, that's impressive, isn't it? Okay, and I'll stick that behind me. I think we're all aware of their calendar. Okay, in fact, They are regarded by scholars as one of the most sophisticated civilizations in the ancient world. They even have their own agricultural and astronomy. Well, had, should I say, because they were well into their stars, weren't they? Now, the question we need to ask, all right, did the Maya do all this on their own, or did they get help from ancient aliens that arrived in what we now call UFOs? And the reason I ask that question is all you've got to do is have a look at these carvings, this artwork. Now, you've got to admit this is an interesting theory, and it does tie into the ideas of gods coming from the sky and interact with and sharing their knowledge with the Mayan people. Okay, so do these artifacts found 80 years ago support that theory? Were ancient aliens visiting our planet thousands of years ago? And does this artwork pay homage to their star gods? What do you think? So, do these artifacts prove that the Mayans actually contacted UFOs and star gods? Now, looking at these things, they do seem to show actual UFOs, don't they? They are disc-shaped and have raised domes in the centre, and they have strange patterns on them as well. They are very UFO-y. Okay, now the one I'll show behind me clearly looks like a flying saucer. It even has a ramp or stairs coming from the bottom. I mean, just look at it. All right. For me, there is no doubt the artwork on these artifacts do show unidentified flying objects. So the question we need to ask, and it's always an important one, isn't it? Are these artifacts fake or genuine? All right. Now, the fact that the government released these artifacts showing what could only be described as UFOs is a big deal, all right? Governments normally just keep this sort of thing hush-hush. But like I said, are they real? Now, there's only one fact that I can think about that supports the argument that they're not fake. Is they're at least a minimum of 80 years old. Remember, the Mexican government admitted they had those in 2013. So, at least 80 years old, because that's how long the government had them for. Now, the modern view of flying saucers didn't really surface until 1947, when the UFO culture really exploded. So, I'll ask you, where did they get the idea from? Where did they get the imagery from, unless they really did see such a thing in the sky? What do you think? Now, if you look at all these artifacts, okay, they are all really open to interpretation. Not for me. I mean, they are obviously UFOs, but I get some people might think otherwise. So I'm going to show you something else, right? But if we head 60 miles from this position into Tikal, you'll find evidence of the Maya's astonishing architectural and astronomical achievements that can be found in what was once the Grand Plaza of Tikal, and I'll stick it behind me, okay? 7 pyramids stand in perfect alignment to the Pleiades star system, which is visible to the naked eye, okay? The Mayans said that their gods came from the Pleiades system, as so many others did around that area. Now, all constellations played a significant role in Mayan religious and cultural practices, but the Pleiades, a cluster of stars also known as the Seven Sisters, held great importance in Mayan mythology, right? The Maya believed that the Pleiades were the home of their ancestors, and their movements in the sky influenced human events on Earth. So, where did they get the notion that their ancestors came from the Pleiades? Did they just wake up one morning and say, oh, by the way, look, you see up there, that's where our ancestors come from, right? Or did a visitor tell them? Did someone from the Pleiades land down and go, look, we are your ancestors? So the questions we need to ask ourselves is, where did they get their mathematical, intellectual abilities? Where did they get their building skills from? I mean, yeah, just look at that, okay? Their astronomy ideas, their agriculture and farming knowledge. Where did it come from? Was it from their ancestors? And if it was it from their ancestor Pleiades that we call today extraterrestrials? I mean, I will leave that question hanging, eh? I mean, they themselves say that the Pleiades, their ancestors come from it. What do they mean by that? Okay, now look, the reason I'm talking about Tikal, it's not about the pyramids and it's not about the Pleiades star system. It's about this little thing they found there, and it is perhaps the most compelling evidence that Tikal was visited by extraterrestrials and is this astonishing stone carving that I will put there. This is the Tikal astronaut, okay? One stone figure wearing what some would say is an astronaut's helmet. Now, I love this Tikal astronaut so much, in fact, I'm going to get a tattoo of it, I think. Okay, I love it. It looks great. Could this stone figure being shown, could this stone figure show a star god? A star god from the Pleiades system, one of the ancestors of the Mayan people. What do you think? Does that show one of the ancestors from the Pleiades system? Okay. Now, someone said to me, why would they wear a helmet? Well, look, why would you wear a helmet if you was a spaceman? Would it be to protect us from like influenza and their version of the flu? Because that is a possibility, isn't it? Or would it be to protect them from our influenza and flu? I mean, it's just a thought, isn't it, really? Okay, right, so just a quick recap. We have the carvings that the Mexican government had for 80 years. And we also have the Tikal astronaut, okay, the Tikal astronaut. Now, let's go a little bit further, okay, and we'll go to the southern Mexican jungles, all right? Here lies one of the most important archaeological sites of the Americas, and it's called the Temple of Inscriptions, and I'll stick it behind me, right? In 1952, archaeologists discovered the burial site of Pacal the Great, all right? And I'll give you a brief history. Pacal was a ruler of the Maya city of Palenque, right? And that was from 1615 AD to 683. He is usually known simply as Pacal or Pacal I to differentiate him from later rulers of the same name. Now, when he came to the throne of Palenque, it was embattled, a destroyed city. But during his long and steady reign, it became the most powerful city-state in the Western Maya lands, right? And inside the burial site was a very intriguing sarcophagus lid, and I will place it behind me. Okay, right, now that is impressive. I've even got that as a tattoo. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, that is the sarcophagus lid of Pacal, and there's obviously other aliens and stuff, but that is on my arm, right? Now, the tomb of Pacal is one of the most interesting relics of the Mayan world, okay? And more specifically, the sarcophagus lid. It shows Pacal himself seated and appearing to look upwards, okay? As you can see. Now, according to mainstream interpretations, he is preparing for his journey into the underworld. However, many people, certainly those who subscribe to the ancient astronaut theory, believe what the carving really shows is a depiction of Pacal positioned in a very real nut and bolt craft. One that may indeed have been capable of taking the Mayan king up to space. It is an interesting theory, and it's easy to see where the comparison to the spacecraft comes from. Look, researcher and model maker Paul Francis would manage to create with such a craft might look like, okay? And this model maker, Paul Francis, has made this model, right? There you go. It's cool, isn't it? Right? So that is what he thinks it looks like. So let's go through it, right? Okay, firstly, the position of Pacal appears to show him in a seated position, okay? Very similar, according to ancient astronaut theorist and author Eric von Däniken, to a modern-day astronaut. Furthermore, his hands appear to be actively manipulating controls. His feet, meanwhile, seem to be pressing down on some kind of pedal, perhaps an accelerator. Now, even more intriguing, a tube appears to be attached and fixed to Pacal's nose. According to legend, this particular piece is called the Giver of Life. Now, as Francis would state, a giver of life could very much be oxygen in order to breathe. Might this giver of life have been an oxygen mask for space travel? So, what do you think? What do you think of that? That's great, isn't it? Well, look, thank you for letting me take you down through a little tiny journey through the Mayan story. Like the paintings I described in earlier videos, and I would check that out if you can, if you haven't seen it. It's all about paintings of early time depicting UFOs. It is easy to dismiss one, but when there's loads, it's harder to ignore. If there was just one artefact, you could put it down to chance. But there's loads all over the Mayan Empire, from artwork, statues, and sarcophagus lids. So do you think they had help from ancient aliens, their star gods? Drop me a line. Tell me what you think. Well, look, thanks for staying tuned, and I'll see you next week. And this was the Tinfoil Hat Fan Club. Thanks very much. Look, like, subscribe, and ding that notification bell. And every time I do a video, you will hear about it, all right? So stay tuned and stay safe.